Hello everybody. Today I'm going to be starting a project I've been looking forward to for a couple days. I'm going to work on a Stanley No. 22 Type 1. That plane was made in about 1867. It was the very earliest of all the planes that Stanley made. It's an unusual and rare find, and especially when you can find the old transitional wooden body planes that are in decent shape. So let's go ahead and take a look at this one. I can't even begin to tell you how surprised I was when I found this plane. The price was right at $15. Made in 1867. It is a very old plane and it appears to be in pretty good condition. See, there's a lot of Japanning loss, but that's forgivable on these really old ones. There's still some Japanning there. It's got that nice trademark solid brass adjusting nut, and got a stamp on the back I can't quite make out yet. Here's a look at this side, and the front knobs on those old Type 1s definitely stand out. The later ones don't look anything like that. And the dead giveaway is the banjo back solid lever cap, only on the Type 1. So there it is. Let's take it apart. So just imagine how many workshops this plane has sat in. How many hands it's been held by. All the events that this thing's been around for. And here it is sitting on my bench. Looking like it hasn't seen hardly any use at all, to be honest with you. There's all the parts. And when you got an old rare plane like this, you don't restore them. All you do is give them some TLC. That's what this one's going to get. A good cleanup. Put it back together. And gotta test it. But then this one becomes a shelf sitter. I wanted y'all to get a closer look at the design of that nut. It's threaded, so it looks like it's a two-part depth adjustment nut. I imagine you take that screw out and the back end of the nut screws off. And even the very leading edge of that depth adjustment nut is knurled. So pretty interesting the changes these things went through over the years. And there's a look at the back side of the nut where all the markings are. We'll be able to see them better after it's cleaned up. The biggest flaw in this old beauty is that crack in the wood bottom right there. Runs all the way from near the back of the throat to the butt end, but it's tight. The metal part looks like it's never had Japanning on the underside, just whatever ran onto it. There's another look at the back end of it where the crack comes through. And that maker's mark, that looks like a maker's mark. So I'm going to have to do a little bit of reading about these. See what I can find out about it. And there's a better look at the profile of the knob, which that is a beautiful old knob. And so far it doesn't look like there's any markings on the iron or the cap iron. Time for me to get to cleaning this thing up. The first part of this cleanup is going to be metal parts, and it's going to consist of a dry brushing. Now we'll take a look at all the cleaned up and waxed parts. So everything was oiled, soaked for a while, wiped down, and then I put a coat of wax, maybe two, over everything. I almost chickened out and was going to sharpen the iron because it's not the longest iron in the world. But what the heck, how often do you get to plane with a Stanley Type 1? Not very often. So there are still small paint specks on things here and there. because it's just been cleaned. It hasn't been restored. It's looking pretty darn good. You're now able to read the writing on the depth knob. And that frog just turned out beautiful. It's probably got 95% of its Japanning left on it. There's a look at the frog from the other side. I would estimate the top casting's probably somewhere around 50%. Japanning, it looks like more because of the aging of the cast iron. But there's, quite a bit of the Japanning is gone off of this. And look at the hole placement for the frog. I mean, they're right on the edge. As a matter of fact, they're actually cut through. So that was a pretty close cut right there. So no Japanning up inside the heel, and it appears only to be what ran around on the underside. I've probably restored in at least 200 or 300 planes, and a lot of these transitional planes, and to find a lever cap as old as what this is with as much Japanning as what remains is incredible. And something that's different about this old one is the sides are machined and there is no Japanning on them. Try to get the light where you can see the machine marks. There's how the back of it looks all cleaned up. Again, most of the Japanning is still there. After cleaning the knob a little bit, we find out that there is a burn on the side. Not real bad, but a burn nonetheless. So she's not perfect. Here's a look at the clean side. And the beautiful detail for the bead at the bottom of the knob. Don't get a chance to look at Type 1s often, so might as well look at every angle. The small parts look just like all the other small parts I've ever seen, with the exception of the screw right there. It's flat on both sides. That's the one that holds the lever cap onto the frog. Why it's flat on both sides, I don't know. So the cap iron did have what it was supposed to have, which is that marking right there. And both the iron and the cap iron cleaned up quite well. Absolutely no sign whatsoever of a mark on the iron. Here's the back side of the iron and the iron cap, or the cap iron. The Japanning, the bluing that they put on the back is nearly all there. And I don't think that iron was ever marked. I got to do some reading on that. So the last thing to look at in detail is the wood body. And it really looks good. No issues in the throat. A little bit of something going on right there around the throat. Oh, whoop, eBay sale. Overall really good. A little bit of paint. A little ding in the crack that runs up across the back. There's another look at the mark on the butt end. I'm still not sure what it is. And WHM on the front. Wonder who he was. Was he the first owner? Or did he own it like 100 years after it was made? Well, that's it. The cleanup is done. We've taken our time and looked at all these old parts. Now it's time to put it back together. Is that a beautiful plane or what? I mean, let's take a look at this thing. She turned out really nice. It just doesn't get any better than that. 1867, that's a few years ago. I guess there isn't much else left to do with this one but take it for a test drive. So I got a piece of walnut in my vise. Let's see what she'll do. Not too bad. It isn't the best I've ever used, but there's definitely nothing wrong with it. Especially given how old it is. What a nice old plane. So somewhere around 150 years ago, this old Stanley No. 22 Type 1 rolled off the end of a production line. And here it is working today. What a beautiful old plane. I hope you all enjoyed looking at it as much as I did. Thanks for watching. Bye.